Hello and welcome to the Scottish Football Show. You can shove your banana splits, your haddock splits, and drown me in the Premiership split. Dunfermline are done as well. Silverware was secured for Stirling, but will it be delight for Dundee or quality for Queen's Park in our lower league roundup? And we look ahead to the Scottish Cup semi-finals. Hello followers of Scottish football, I am Andrew Slaven, once again guiding you through the darkness and the light of Scottish football. Joining me, as always, we have West Ham senior producer Laura Brannan and football editor Findlay Marks.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Felt like I gave you like the kind of intro for like live at the Apollo and everyone should be clapping, but there's nobody here.
In my head, everyone's clapping.
Yes. Well, as you just said, off air, Laura, at least your mum listens to this podcast.
Well, at least that's one person.
That's one
It's
person.
good to know.
That's lovely. That's nice. Before we kick things off, an excellent response to our last podcast with James McPake when talking about being sacked as Dundee manager, and obviously has redeemed things at Dunfermline. So thanks to all of your great responses. We really appreciate it. So yeah, we'll get stuck into what have our weekends been like.
Oh, I'm loaded with a cold and I just sat on my couch all weekend watching football, so I've got nothing to report. But yours looked really interesting and exciting compared to Andrew.
Yes. I guess you're alluding to the Wrexham game.
Yeah, the Hollywood fixture.
The Hollywood fixture.
Did you actually get to meet Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney?
Absolutely not. No chance. No, so I was in Stratford in London while there was a lot of other people in Wrexham in Wales. So BT do a lot of remote productions. So the kind of producing side of things, all the directing, all the VT replays and everything like that all happened in Stratford, but all of our cameras were in Wrexham. So we did not get to meet any of the Hollywood stardust that was sprinkled in Wales over the weekend. But it was still awesome.
What's it actually like producing a show like that? You know, where the title's on the
Oh,
line.
you're interviewing me now. Sorry, mate. What were you asking?
No, just interested to know because, like, obviously, you know, we've all been part of football broadcasts, but you get to see it very much at the top end of the spectrum. And just do you feel the pressure and the stress of a day like that where there's quite a lot at stake in terms of the show that could go out or the potential show that could happen for the watching audience?
Yeah, the thing is, you always set your plans to be your best possible outcome. And the one thing you always have to be prepared for big days like that, any cup finals or potential title clinches like that, is you have to be fluid. And more often than not, your little paper running order you have will be burned and ripped to shreds because you just have to throw it out the window and just go with the flow. So you're trying to be that kind of calm voice, even though you're feeling it. That's why in that role you have to be, as well as the director and so many other people, have to be calm in those situations. But you definitely feel it, man. And that's why some of the shots we got, all the cameras were just on it. I think we only had like 10 cameras. So like you're limited, and what we got out of it was amazing. And that's testament down to everyone that's on the floor, because they can only provide us with possibilities, and then it's up to us in the gallery to be like, let's do this, let's do this, let's do this. So like Jeff Brazier at one point was just like, I've got Paul Rudd, do you want Paul Rudd? He's Ant-Man. And I'm like, yes, I want Paul Rudd. He's like, cool, well I don't have a camera. And I was like, well, I can do nothing with that, Jeff. If you don't have a camera, I'm not gonna do anything. We need to see him. Obviously that Saturday was with the whole Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney thing, and the kind of fervour that they've created at Wrexham. The scenes were unreal. especially because Wrexham hadn't been promoted in 15 years. But it's so special to be able to cover those moments. I'd love to do it in Scotland. I'd absolutely love it, especially with the pitch invasion and stuff like that. Like, it's just amazing scenes.
I was going to ask about that because the pitch invasion is like one of those ready-made brilliant moments as a producer where you just film it, just film anything, anywhere you point it, it's going to look good.
No.
Yeah.
No. Oh, I absolutely hate pitch invasions. A pitch is a sacred area in football. It's like breaking all your religious rules. You wouldn't just like stampede onto what's it, the altar in a church. Do you invade the stage at the end of a theatre production when you've enjoyed the show?
Don't bring religion into a Scottish football podcast, Laura. Just don't do it.
I just think it's so inappropriate.
It's not the same. That's not the same. That's not the same, Laura. Imagine next season Aberdeen go and win the Scottish Premiership. Are you and they win it at Pittodrie? Are you saying that Aberdeen fans would just stay in the stands?
No, I'm not saying they would. They're saying they should.
I'm speaking hypothetically here, of course. But all I would say is, if they did encroach onto the pitch, I have no issue with that. I totally understand the emotion just spilling out onto it. It's just amazing.
I'm sorry, but it doesn't matter how big the occasion is, because we've seen it. We've seen it with Scotland fans at Wembley. We've seen it Hibs fans after they won the first Scottish Cup after 100 years. There's always going to be huge occasions in your team's history. Mm-hmm. But that doesn't mean that you're going to enjoy it more because you've passed a barrier. Enjoy it in the stand. Your level of enjoyment doesn't change because you've walked onto the pitch.
I think it does. Laura. I disagree with it.
What do you gain from being on the pitch?
The memory.
So it's not a memory of a lifetime in the stand where you've just watched a historic moment?
No.
Why have you always got to exceed it? Why have you always got to go one more? Why can't you enjoy it in the stand?
What if Scotland win the Euros at Hampden?
No, well that sounds horrific in the first place, winning it at Hampden. After last week's chat of not wanting to go to Hampden for a tournament. But no, I don't. If I see Scotland win something, I'm going to enjoy it in the stand because that's where I've enjoyed the moment, I've enjoyed the goals, and I've enjoyed the whole 90 minutes. I don't really have the impulse to push forward and walk on the pitch.
I think that's just where you're different. You're just different, Laura. So all I've got is you're just different.
The pitch is just, it's such a sacred area.
Yeah,
and
I respect that.
I don't think you should mess with that. I really don't, and you need to respect that boundary.
In Wrexham's case, or in Hibs' case, winning the Scottish Cup or whatever, it's kind of like a physical catharsis, like the release of not just that moment, but everything that's been building up to that. For Hibs, it's 100 years of failure in the Scottish Cup leading up to that release point. But with Wrexham as well, it's not just that they've had these Hollywood actors come in and rescue the club. It's that they almost went out of business at the start of the 2010s. You know,
I'm sorry, that still doesn't justify going on a pitch because you nearly went out of business.
I think it does.
You're just not meant to be there.
No, it's a catharsis because, and again as well, when Graham Souness first came in at Rangers and Rangers won the first title in about like 10 years or something like that. There was a pitch invasion at Pittodrie. Like it's one of these overflows of emotion, and I know Rangers fans that were at that game at Pittodrie, whatever. They still speak about that as being one of the most incredible moments, but they were so caught up in it, like they couldn't help themselves. It was like a sea, an emotional response. You don't even know what's happening to you when you run on. And also for the players, you're talking about the players on the pitch. Like for these fans that have backed you the whole season, to run onto the pitch and like lift you up on their shoulders and give you hugs, you're gods in that moment to them.
From my perspective, working in the industry, it ruins the shots. To me, that is a horrible shot of just a mass of people on the pitch. I'm not getting good shots
Laura,
from that.
I think. Sorry, I just can't agree with that at all. I just can't agree with any of that.
And secondly, I like the whole aspect of players doing their lap of honour with the trophy and mixing with the fans in ways that isn't literally on the pitch with them, putting their arms around them. I think there's other ways to express that joy between each other and still share it.
I'll jump in and just say that you're utterly wrong, Laura. It doesn't ruin the shots because I don't know what shot you think might be better than that, because you're still going to get all of those shots that you've just suggested anyway. So Wrexham did do their lap of honour and everything like that with the trophy. They had all their moments, but they also got that immediate reaction of the players running on the pitch. So it's just one of those things where we'll have to agree to disagree.
I'm definitely getting some heavy Alan Partridge, accidental Partridge vibes from Laura around this subject. She's like, what's wrong with good morning and a firm handshake? You know, what's wrong with celebrating with decorum from the stands? Why do we have to run onto the pitch?
Wow.
It's just, I mean, I'm looking forward to the day when Scotland win the World Cup and Slaven and I are rushing onto the pitch.
I'm looking forward to that day as well.
We're hugging Meatball and Scott McTominay, and Laura's just calmly clapping on from the stands, watching everybody else in Scotland run onto the pitch. I can't wait for that.
So, to conclude, I had a very, very busy Saturday. Right, some news and some funnies now, and I'm going to say to Finn to kick things off.
Might be because of a lack of sleep, but I genuinely burst out laughing at I think it was the Clyde post from their match at Peterhead, where they just posted through the club account a picture of a dead pigeon at the back of the stand saying that's us arrived in Peterhead. I don't know, something about the kind of the tragedy of it and just how pathetic this dead pigeon looked at the back of the stand. It really tickled me, but you weren't so much of a fan, Laura.
No, I absolutely hated this. I think this is when the problem of giving children admin passwords to club accounts, they forget what is their personal accounts and what is actually representing a football club. I think it's immature and completely inappropriate to be tweeting dead pictures of animals, and it's just not funny.
Okay, so on to our news and disasters. Laura, what have you got?
Oh, there was a disaster in was it Inverness? Did you see that a fan tweeted
the sausage roll, wasn't it?
Sausage roll that he bought at the game, but it was like, I don't quite understand what it was meant to look like, because it was about a weird shape, but also rock hard and black.
Oh, it was cremated. Yeah.
So this wasn't Graham Ruthven or anything like that, was it? Because he always puts up, we had him in his steak pie delight. So this is just someone who's had a absolute horror of a sausage roll.
I think it had been in an oven for about a week.
I love a sausage roll as well. They better up their game if they end up in the Premiership next season. That's what I'll have to say. There was a weird bubbling story over the weekend about the TV blackouts and how it's all kind of, I don't know, managed by UEFA and stuff like that. Do you know much about this, Laura?
Aye, so the English...
On about the English again, Laura.
The English FA Cup semi-finals were shown on TV on Saturday during the hours of the blackout. So it's kind of raised a couple of eyebrows, because this is not the first time it's happened this season. And there's kind of questions over not so much why, but what are the SFA doing to question why this is being allowed to happen? If they're taking the blackout seriously as they make out they are, why is this happening? So basically, long story short, England and Scotland have set a rule: you can't show games from anywhere in the world live between the hours of 2:45 and 5:15 on a Saturday afternoon. This is enforced through UEFA. So there's a few times over the course of the season where you can break that rule with permission, and that's set for things like cup finals or international breaks. Mm-hmm. But this one at the weekend didn't fit into that category. Like, when this happens, you could technically be warned, fined, or even chucked out of competitions. So the question is really kind of here, why are the SFA kind of not fighting this? Or are they fighting it? Are they asking questions of it? And also, what actually is being done? Because the thing is, if they care so much about the blackout, which, I mean, look, it's outdated. I don't think anyone likes the blackout. It's the reasons for it are very outdated and just nonsense, to be fair. Yeah. So I'm all for showing games over the blackout, but my kind of argument is, well, if nothing happens, then let's all go and do it, because we can all go and show games on pay-per-view and make some money out of it. But we're all sticking to the rules, yet they're not, and we're kind of suffering for it.
Does that feel, in a sense, that the English FA have more clout with UEFA than the Scottish FA, or is it, like you say, there's just no information as to whether the Scottish FA are actually trying to do something similar, for instance?
I mean, look, we've no idea what they're doing behind the scenes, but it feels almost like they kind of know they can get away with it because there's not been repercussions. The thing was, during the COVID season, when there were no fans and we had pay-per-view,
Yeah.
the English FA threatened the Scottish clubs saying, you're showing games during the Saturday blackout, which was fine because it was an exceptional rule during the COVID times. And that was because it couldn't be enforced properly online. All the games were shown through a streaming platform, which you can't technically enforce because we are the UK and we're not two individual countries in that sense. But they were on our backs over that, which couldn't be avoided. Your kind of response is, well, what are the SFA doing to be on their backs over this? Because it can be avoided. They can go to them and say, we'll move your kick-off times. Because if you don't, we're going to try and get you fined and warned and chucked out of competitions and so on and so on. Because
Of course.
there's questions over who's really taking this seriously. If no one's taking it seriously, just scrap it and we'll all benefit from it. But let's not have this in-between thing.
I just don't understand it at all, because it's like it's not like it's a gentleman's agreement that they can kind of like get to. Like, this is enshrined in UEFA law. Like, they made it part of their laws that this happens in the UK. So
it's only Scotland and England. It's not even Wales.
Exactly. But so you either can do it or you can't. But it's not fair if one's adhering to it and another one's just like, well, we'll adhere to it when it suits us, and then we'll threaten you with stuff when you're not. But I'm with you, Laura. I don't get, especially in a post-COVID world where we kind of scrap the rule, and you know that it doesn't impact fan numbers, having games on pay-per-view or during that. Yeah, exactly. But
because that's the reason, wasn't it? The reason was to protect attendance.
It's based on fears around fan culture and attendances from the 1960s. Really, when television cameras started going into ground. So we're talking like, this is a 60-year-old fear that's totally not grounded in modern reality.
When television was brand new and it was like you didn't know the power of it.
It just... it's funny. Surely what has to happen, the SFA have to be the one on the front foot. I mean, good luck with that, but they have to be the ones on the front foot taking it to UEFA, saying we have to address this rule, we have to change it, because if you're not going to penalise the English FA for doing it while we're adhering to the rules and they aren't, well, it needs to change, and we need to be capitalising our own game and trying to maximise that market that we can, rather than it being forced into a blackout against...
Yeah, you look at the games of the weekends that could have been shown on pay-per-view. We had massive games across some of our divisions over the course of the weekend.
Exactly.
We had Stirling Albion were clinching the title. The Championship is just mental right now. We've got the split between the top and bottom six as well. There's so much happening at the weekend, and none of those games could get broadcast. There's lots of money that is getting missed out on, whereas we're currently getting to watch the FA Cup on our TV instead.
Interesting times, very interesting. I wonder if it will change. Probably not, but you never know. So that means we can move on now. Yeah, because we need to round up what's been going on over the weekend, so let's do that.
You think I'm going to answer a stupid question like that?
So going into Saturday's games in the Premiership, it was between St Mirren, Hibs and Livingston for the top six. Not quite the drama of last year, but it was still pretty good. St Mirren and Hibs secured their place in the top six without winning. Livingston lose out again after losing to relegation battlers Dundee United. They lost out in the 94th minute last season as well. Sticking with St Mirren though, it's the first time they've made the top six ever. It's their highest finish in the Scottish football system for 38 years. And Finn, you called it, mate. It absolutely makes me vomit, but you did call it.
Right at the start of the season. Yeah, no, I surprised myself. I figured that the top six would mostly revert to type this season, so I thought the bigger teams would do well, with one success story from the slightly more unfancied teams, and a plump for St Mirren, just because I thought they'd done some good business in the summer. They're a really good, well-run club. They're difficult to beat at home, and that's proved to be the case during the season. So well done to St Mirren. It's fantastic for them.
Well done to St Mirren. Even though they lost 2-0, they had their old pal Jim Goodwin helping them out, their old manager, because Dundee United beat Livingston. But It always, the split when it comes around always ends up being this debate. But Laura, you're a massive fan of the split.
Yeah, I absolutely love the split. I just think this is a great aspect of Scottish football that kind of feels like it gets put down now and again. Well, not now and again, when this time of year comes round. I tweeted about this at the weekend. It was Pie and Bovril that tweeted originally. I just want to read you the tweet because it was so nice. This is Saturday morning. A grown man who has been going to the football for 45 years should not be having sleepless nights and feeling sick with excitement about the prospect of his team maybe clinching a place in the top 6 of the league they play in. But yet, here we are. What a state to get into. It's sad that we kind of dismiss it and laugh it off and belittle it as, oh, it's just a top 6, and like it's kind of sad that we still think like that and we don't market the game in the way that the split, and I use that with a capital T and a capital S, is not a huge part of our season. And I think a problem that comes with it is that they come back as people go, oh, because, you know, my team finished in the bottom 6, but we had more points and we should have technically been 5th at the end of the season, and the table looks daft.
Yeah.
It doesn't really work like that, okay? I agree the table does look daft when it looks like that, but really what the SPFL should be doing is saying, we're going to split the league in half. We're going to have 2 different tables. I know Belgium, it's something that Belgium's done before in the past. I don't know if they still do it nowadays, if it's the same system, but you split it. You don't have to start from scratch. You don't have to go to 0 again. You still have the same points tally, but that'd be carnage. But it's 2 individual tables, and that way you're not comparing and going, oh, well, I've got more points than them. I just feel like we're absolutely missing a trick here, which I feel like we say quite often, but this should be a bigger deal. And now we go into the last 5 games, which is the title, Europe, relegation. It's all happening now, and the great thing is they're all playing each other, so you actually can't call it because it's going to be so tight and so unpredictable.
I completely agree. It's something that I have to admit, I think my feelings around the split used to be, it looks so hokey. Like, it just looks so small fry and bizarre and weird when you try and explain to people from other leagues. They're just like, what? So your league splits, and a team who's 7th could win all their last 5 fixtures and finish, you know, with more points than the team that finishes 6th. But I think the joy of it is like when you're watching it, exactly for the reasons you're saying, Laura, because every game has crucial importance. Like, if you're in the relegation battle, you're playing 4-5 matches against teams that are directly around you. Same in the top half of the table. You know, I know we've not really got much of a title race on this season, but in previous seasons, you know, you're playing, if it's Rangers or Celtic that are vying for the title, it's like, wow, you know, one of them has to go to Easter Road or Tynecastle or Pittodrie. Like, you're getting these big juicy fixtures towards the end of the season. The split is amazing, and we are underselling it so badly. Like, it should be, look at the way that England do it for the top 4. Like, everybody knows what top 4 means, and it is the most boring thing in the world, because we all know it's probably going to be the most moneyed teams that do it, and just like, oh, you know, another amazing season for Arsenal securing 4th. You know, how boring. Like, there's no narrative there, really. It's but dull. They nail it. This actually matters. It's brilliant, and the split is amazing, and we should be doing far more to do it. Was it not that Kelly sold out the entire away support going to Paisley as well this weekend? Like, the
entire stadium was sold out, home and away.
It was a sellout crowd at St Mirren Stadium, and all of that stuff just goes under the radar. It's such a shame.
Did you notice the feeling of the clubs as well at the full-time whistle? Livingston, when they hadn't made it into the top 6, all the players crumpled to the ground, and you listened to David Martindale post-match as well. He was pretty crestfallen, because he knows, like, the people on the ground, they know what it means just to get into that league, right? Let's Laura's bang on. To get into that league is massive, and to miss out is so hard to take. And the fans that are involved in that, they get it, they totally understand it. But there's a big group out there in the whole of the UK as well. Let's include them. They don't get it. They just don't understand it, and that goes back to the point of us underselling this and why it's so good.
See, if anyone doesn't understand what it feels like, this time last year I worked the Motherwell Livingston game. So Motherwell were 2-0 down and brought it back to 1, and it was the 94th minute they equalised to make it 2 each, and that draw was what got them into the top 6. It was literally the last move of the game, and it was the best game that I've been involved in 4 years of filming games at Motherwell. The emotions that day were incredible. The players just ran in every direction when the ball went in because the fans in the stand were just losing their minds. The post-match celebrations, both on the pitch with the players and in the stands with the fans, we were at the cameras everywhere, was just incredible. At a club like Motherwell, you're not going to get league titles and you're not really going to get cup runs on a regular basis, but something like that is what we were kind of saying earlier, is that release of emotion. And by the way, no one was on the pitch, but it was that sort of release of emotion at full time that you could really just see how much it meant to everyone, and it's your chance to share it, the players with the fans. All I did was get top 6. I say all because in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't look like a lot on paper. It's a lot financially, it's a lot for just what it stands for in terms of the league, and to talk it up and have that sort of emotion and feeling just shows how important it was. And that's the sort of thing that we should be capturing and sharing and talking up and celebrating as a country.
Absolutely. Well, let's just round up what else happened in the Premiership as well. You know, divulging into who got into top 6 and why and how, etc., etc. But can we start at the bottom league, as we'll call it now, because specifically I want to point out St Johnstone drawing 1-1 with Hibernian. Stevie May scored an absolute belter, but the commentator, I can't quite remember his name, described that goal as having the velocity of a wounded duck. I thought that was amazing. But
that's a great one.
Let's bear in mind they've got rid of Callum Davidson, and it's now Stephen McLean who's taken interim charge, kind of following a number of clubs, giving it to ex-players to take charge. It was, they absolutely peppered Hibs' goal, and it was only down to Marshall having an absolute belter of a game. But I'm interested to see now the teams that they're around in the bottom 6, who's really best placed to stay up. Because I look at St Johnstone now and I look at the teams that they've played recently in the bottom 6, and they haven't done too well.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see what happens. I think it almost doesn't matter up until this point, because I do think there can even be a mental thing with a split, which again is brilliant, which is just like, right, we've got to this stage of the season, we know what our fixtures are, now we have 5 games to focus on, and this is what will make or break our season. But I think you look at teams like Dundee United are coming into form at exactly the right time of the season. Kilmarnock, I think, have started to get a few interesting results, especially on the road, which has been crucial for them. On the other side of the coin, like Ross County, where they just fell apart at Tynecastle at the weekend, and they've been on a desperate run of late. So this is the great leveler. Like it's now or never. So you can still turn your season around now. It's just electric. Like I'm not quite sure how to call it. Looking at United and Killie, I think I feel most fearful for Ross County in terms of the drop. But I mean, there's so much football still to be played. We'll just need to wait and see.
I feel like with Ross County, Malky Mackay all season has been like so calm and so really like, we're playing really well. If we keep playing like this, we'll be all right.
Yeah.
But they have played well, but they just don't get the results. And that weekend, losing 6-1 to Hearts, Malky got Malkied, guys. Let's face it. And I just wonder, Laura, when it looks at the top league, with St Mirren getting through and Hearts, with a big result like that, and Aberdeen on Sunday beating Rangers for the first time in 7 years at Pittodrie, that's where even the top level is really tasty.
It's the complete unpredictability of all of it, I think. Even what you're talking about with like St Johnstone, can very easily get dragged into it because we don't know what's going to happen against these teams. It's not like it's going to be like Ross County against Hearts, where it's a 6-1 drum and you go, oh, well, they're playing one of the biggest teams in the country just now, or, oh, look, they've got Celtic this weekend, that's a write-off. It doesn't happen like that anymore. There's none of these games anymore, and then the teams that are playing the bigger sides are obviously the ones that are capable of taking points off them. So all that's out the window. It's not like, oh, it's a pass this weekend. We knew we were going to lose it anyway. We factored that into our thinking. See, now when you look at the top 6, you've got 4, possibly 5 European spots up for grabs. And they're like, you look at 6th place at Mirren on 44 points, it's equal with Hibs. Anyone can get these positions right now. It's all up for grabs. It's just, it's not knowing. That's what's so exciting about it.
And plenty of these clubs will be, waiting to know so that they can plan for next season and all of those beautiful financial problems. Looking at the Scottish Championship, Ayr, they can no longer win the league because they took just a point off of Queen's Park on Friday night, and Queen's Park themselves would have enjoyed 3 points because Dundee also drew with Inverness, which has kept it nice and open going into the final 2 games. And a reminder, Queen's Park will face Dundee on the final day of the season, so next weekend's results could keep the table on a knife edge. Partick Thistle also dropped a huge 2 points against Hamilton Accies, who are struggling at the bottom end of the table. It's pretty much written off, well, it has written off the Thistle's title hopes. Late drama, though.
Oh, the tail end of this game was absolutely fantastic. The drama, Thistle actually went 2-1 down in the 89th minute. Then Stephen Lawless equalises in the 92nd. And then Brian Graham thinks he's scored a winner, and it's kind of controversially ruled offside seconds later. So, oh man, just unbelievable drama. But it's kind of indicative of the kind of season it's been in the Championship. We see it every week. It is the best league in the country. It's just billboard every single week, and I've got no idea how it's going to play out in the end up.
Absolutely love it. I just want all the scores next weekend to just align so that Friday the 5th of May is just the night of the Championship drama. I am so up for this.
Yeah, and that's I don't know for certain, but that's got to be televised. BBC Scotland, they've got to be doing that. Fingers crossed. I'm sure it is. It has to be. Shall we talk about League One then?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Because Kelty Hearts can relegate Peterhead this weekend after the Blue Toon only managed a draw with Clyde. Clyde themselves are also in the relegation playoff place, so it's all to play for. They missed a penalty, then conceded a heartbreaking 92nd minute equaliser, which all but seals Peterhead's fate. Let's not forget in League 2 as well, Stirling Albion are League 2 champions. So why don't we hear from Darren?
Pitch invasion. There was a pitch invasion.
Shame on you all.
Was there actually a pitch invasion?
Yes, there was, yeah.
Amazing. I love that. Even better than that, though, is that we're going to hear from Darren Young now because he spoke to John Bleasdale at full time.
Yeah, absolutely delighted. Delighted for everybody, for the players, the staff, the fans, the board, everybody connected with the club. And it's been a long time coming. When I came in here, it was one of the things we spoke. It was one of the things we spoke about. We were 9 years out of League One, and it's more than long enough. And again, they've got a great fan base and a great support, and you can kind of see that as the season has gone on. They've come out in the numbers, and the day was brilliant. That was good for them today, and just absolutely delighted. Personally, for me, brilliant. I've only been in League 2 3 times, and I won it as a player with Alloa. I won it as a player manager with Albion Rovers, and now I've won it as a proper manager with Stirling, and just absolutely delighted. It's brilliant. Just one of those things, one of those feelings. It's just seeing the guys in there enjoy it and make the most of it, because it doesn't happen all the time, and before you know it, you're coming to the end of your career and you're looking back, and this is one of the days that they should enjoy and go and enjoy the next couple of days and nights.
Top lad, John. Absolute legend for giving us a wee snippet of that. You can listen to the full chat with Darren and John on the Scottish Football Forums podcast. Really, really good. John hosts it, and it's a good interview, so definitely tune in for that. Meanwhile, Laura, did you see Stranraer? They brought Scott Agnew in as manager after he was manager of East Fife, who pumped them 8-0.
Aye, so he did so well against them the weekend before, and they went, you know what, you know how to win games, we're going to take you on board. And he did exactly that the following weekend, this time for Stranraer. This was a big weekend for them though, this was a big result. So they beat Elgin 3-1, and it's moved them a really good step towards safety. 5 off the bottom and only 2 games left, so it looks like that managerial change came at just the right time.
Yes, maybe. Former Stranraer player as well, so yeah, it's been welcomed. Also, guys, have you kept across the Highland Leagues and Lowland Leagues?
Oh, absolutely. At Brechin City, there was actually another pitch invasion this weekend.
You're killing me. You're all killing me.
So Brechin won the Highland League. They beat Bucky Thistle, and Bucky only needed a point to win the league, but 2 goals in the final 4 minutes sealed their fate. A total heartbreaking end. Graham Stewart, the manager of Bucky, in his post-match interview, you could feel it. Because it's probably Bucky's greatest ever season and their greatest ever team, and to still not manage it. Look, I hope they do it next season, but it's so difficult. There's so many teams that do so well at that level. But Spartans, they won the Lowland League, so they're going to meet with Brechin in a playoff semi-final, 2-leg tie, and they'll probably play maybe Albion Rovers, but Albion in League 2. So they're bottom of League 2. They won at the weekend. They beat Stenhousemuir. So they're within a point of Elgin. So it's absolutely madness at the bottom as well. So Elgin could be playing either Spartans or Brechin. So it's absolutely brilliant.
Amazing for Brechin City as well, because they've suffered subsequent relegations in recent seasons and dropped out the league system. And sometimes that can be a death knell for clubs that have been in the league system, but not for Brechin. You know, they've managed to bounce back, and they've got that opportunity now to try and get back into the league system. So fair play to them.
Yeah, I remember in doing the Totally Scottish Football show in the past, we had a few episodes reflecting Brechin bad. Maybe it can be Brechin back in the future. Oh my god, dad jokes galore. Well, from the very, very bottom to the very, very top, because we're going to talk about the Scottish Cup semi-final next.
Regrets? No, it's good laugh on it. So
I didn't find it funny.
A special occasion for so many fans and so many clubs when they can reach the semi-final of the Scottish Cup, playing at Hampden, and we've got some really good ones. Falkirk versus Inverness on Saturday, and then Rangers against Celtic on Sunday. I love these weekends, guys. I mean, I know we've spoken in the past whether or not Hampden should be the location for these, but I don't know about you, I'm absolutely looking forward to each and every one of them.
Yeah, I missed the chat when you had it about the locations, and I'm absolutely all for both games being at Hampden. It's really harsh 12:15 kickoff though for Inverness fans to get down the road. It's just, I think it's actually
exactly.
just not. It's just not physically possible if you use like public transport to get down in time for that game. So that is really poor, because let's face it, Falkirk versus Inverness, Cally Thistle's not going to sell out Hampden at the best of times. Even if it was a good kick-off time. So they've absolutely shot them in the foot there. That's so unfair. But this occasion for both sets of fans is brilliant. I know they were actually both obviously in the Scottish Cup latter stages recently, and against each other as well, ironically. But this doesn't really come, it's not meant to come round again this fast, and it has. But look, they're going to absolutely lap up every single minute of it, and why not have it at the National Stadium? It's their big day out. It might end up being a big weekend out because of logistics, but we should not be denying them that.
Most importantly, Laura, the last time that they did meet in the semi-finals, Inverness went on to win the Scottish Cup as well.
But that's the thing, like, and remember the drama involved in that Inverness Celtic semi-final. Anything can happen at this stage, and this is why it's so exciting. In terms of the actual game itself,
Who are you saying?
I'm going to pick Inverness, because when you look at this, Falkirk are not on a great run right now. They've only won 3 in 11, and also the teams they've put out, they have absolutely struck it lucky to get this far in the competition. They have put out Ayr, Darvel, Alloa, and Wick Academy, okay? I'm sorry, if you're coming up against those teams, you probably should be getting to the semi-finals. That's a hell of a lucky run you've had in the Cup. The teams dream of that sort of run. So they kind of, they're kind of, look, they're there on merit, but they're there because they got a hell of a easy push out of it. Inverness, on the other hand, though, they've only lost 1 in 11. They've put out far bigger teams as well. They've put out like Kilmarnock, Livingston, so Premiership teams. Queen's Park, obviously fighting for the Championship title. Okay, I get that was a whole disqualified sort of breaking the rules sort of turnaround there. So let's not technically pick that to bits. And also Stirling Albion, who have just won their own league as well in League 2. So these are teams that are doing well, and also teams at the top division. So I feel that Inverness have had a far harder run to get to the semi-final and are on a far better run of form right now. So my money is firmly on Cally Thistle.
It feels like an episode of Play Your Cards Right, and you're kind of like weighing up
Higher or lower.
the kind of like higher or lower.
I just want to go back to quickly pick up on something that Laura said, because I don't think Falkirk versus Inverness should be at the National Stadium. I don't think Rangers Celtic should either. Just logistically, it makes sense because it's the only other neutral massive venue in the country. But I'm personally of the opinion, romantically, I think only the final should be at Hampden. I think that's your day out. That's the right you've earned if you get to the cup final to do it, not the semi-final. I don't think that should be. It should be at a neutral venue somewhere that makes sense to the fan bases of the teams that have qualified. But I think again this all feeds into something much wider of trying to make the best spectacle. Like it's bizarre to me that you would have the two biggest cup games in the country to this point in the season, the two semi-finals, within 24 hours of each other on the same pitch. Like, you don't do that in any other sport. Like, you wouldn't even consider, for example, at Fir Park, using it for one game on the Saturday and then using it again for a game of potentially the same import the day after. It makes no sense. And the last couple of times we've seen it, because the Old Firm games are usually on the Sunday, they're usually the second game, the pitch is like a paddy field, and it's like that's the game that neutrals are tuning in for. With the greatest of respect, neutrals are not going to tune in for Falkirk Cally Thistle on the Saturday. They'll be tuning in for an Old Firm semi-final, and the pitch looks like a potato field. It's abysmal, and it kills part of the occasion because you're not giving the teams the best possible chance to play the best game of football. So I'm very much not of the opinion that both semi-finals should be held at the same ground. It doesn't necessarily need to be Hampden. I just think they should be held at different grounds, or hold them on different weekends. I don't think
you will be hampered with the schedule for that and stuff like that.
Yeah,
there may be some comfort the fact that Celtic dropped points at the weekend as well, with Motherwell playing so well. Maybe Celtic have one eye on that game also. I can see Finn just falling back in his chair. He's not having any of it. But that's it from us this week. Thanks, Laura. Cheers, Finn. As always, absolute legends. If you enjoyed our pish for another week, why not rate us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you listen to the show. You can always chat to us on Twitter as well at TSFS Podcast. But we all know, if you want an argument, pester Laura. It's that time again to go and listen to something else. Bye.